They say you are what you eat, but that's not true. You are what you digest and what your gut bacteria do with what you eat. Most people believe the brain controls the body, but the real control center might actually be your gut, the hidden system that shapes your immune strength, your hormones, and even your mood. The truth is, many of us are damaging this delicate ecosystem every single day without realizing it, simply through the foods we eat. Welcome to Eco Vitality, your channel for real science, natural health, and long-lasting energy. Today we reveal the 10 worst foods that silently destroy your gut and how to protect it before it's too late. Let's begin with number 10. Processed meats, such as hot dogs, bacon, and sausages. One major issue with these foods is that they contain nitrates and nitrites, which can combine with proteins and form nitrosamines, known to be carcinogenic. It's not the nitrates or nitrites themselves that are dangerous, but their ability to combine under heat and acidity to form these harmful compounds. If you have a very acidic stomach, which is necessary for protein digestion, or if you cook these meats at very high temperatures, you increase the risk of forming cancer-causing substances. To avoid this, cook them slowly, at low heat. For example, frying bacon at high temperature is a bad idea. Slow cooking limits the formation of these harmful compounds. Many people have heard about this, but what they often don't realize is that this reaction doesn't only occur in processed meats. Plants also contain nitrates, nitrites, and proteins, which means they too can form nitrosamines, but in much smaller amounts. Fortunately, plants also contain antioxidants and polyphenols that counteract this effect. So, if you eat processed meats and plan to grill or sear them, it's strongly recommended to include them in balanced meals rich in nutrients and antioxidants. High-heat cooking can also produce heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, complicated names for chemicals that irritate or severely damage the intestinal lining you're trying to protect. Another issue with processed meats is that they often contain low-quality ingredients, such as MSG, monosodium glutamate, preservatives, chemical additives, fillers, and even sugar. That's why it's so important to choose quality sources. Processed meats are not necessarily evil if they're made properly, but this topic helps us understand how crucial gut health really is, and we've only scratched the surface. Gut health isn't just about digestion or stomach discomfort. Many people know that when their digestion is off, they feel terrible, but it goes far beyond that. Your gut handles digestion and absorption. Everything you eat ultimately passes through it before entering your body. But its role is much more complex. The digestive system produces enzymes and breaks down food, but the ecosystem inside it, your microbiome, made up of billions of bacteria, digests substances that your body cannot and makes many nutrients available. For example, gut bacteria produce vitamins such as B1, B2, B6, B12, and K2. If your gut is healthy, these are produced naturally. A balanced gut can also activate nutrients, transforming them into usable forms. You can eat all the right foods, but if your gut flora is unbalanced, your body may not absorb nutrients effectively. Another key fact: 90% of serotonin, the neurotransmitter responsible for well-being, is produced in the gut. So much of your mood and emotional balance depends on the quality of your gut flora. This is why your gut is often called your second brain. It contains a complex network of nerves, known as the enteric nervous system, that interacts constantly with your brain. In fact, communication between these two brains goes both ways. What happens in your gut affects your emotions, and your emotional state affects your gut. You could say that you share your brain with your bacteria. Your body actually hosts two distinct systems, one of them inside your gut, containing about 40 trillion bacteria, roughly the same number as your human cells. This ecosystem produces chemicals, processes nutrients, and sends signals to your brain just like your body does. Number 9 on the list of foods that destroy your gut: low-fat pasteurized milk, in all its forms. One reason is that it contains a protein called A1 beta-casein,
which is poorly tolerated by many people. In the body, it can turn into beta-casomorphin 7, a compound that increases the risk of food reactions, inflammation, and intestinal permeability, also known as leaky gut. Low-fat milk is actually worse than whole milk because removing the fat eliminates the aliment that helped to reduce irritation. This raises the ratio of A1 protein to fat and removes nearly 90% of the natural fat buffer. As a result, this irritating protein reaches your tissues more quickly and causes more inflammation.
There are many sensitivities and intolerances to lactose and so on, but nature didn't make a mistake by creating milk. It's the primary food for all baby mammals. However, pasteurization destroys many of the natural components found in milk. Fresh, whole, raw milk contains essential nutrients, just like human breast milk. It includes enzymes such as lipase and lactase, which help us digest fats and break down lactose. Milk also contains an enzyme called phosphatase, which is vital for the absorption of calcium and phosphorus. You've probably seen advertisements claiming that milk helps build strong bones, but what they don't tell you is that pasteurization destroys phosphatase. Without it, your body absorbs only a small fraction of the calcium and phosphorus needed for bone formation. Pasteurization also destroys protease, the enzyme that breaks down proteins, including the A1 casein we discussed earlier. On top of that, it eliminates all probiotics, lactobacilli, and bifidobacteria, the beneficial microbes essential for maintaining a healthy gut flora. That's why raw milk is considered a health food. When consumed unpasteurized, about 95% of people allergic to dairy can tolerate it well, even if they have lactose intolerance or other sensitivities. Of course, there are still a few individuals who remain highly sensitive and cannot tolerate it. Another problem is that in most states, the distribution and sale of raw milk are illegal, which is unfortunate. Sometimes you can find it sold as pet milk or animal feed. If you manage to get some, you can share it with your pet, but make sure it's whole milk, meaning the fat has not been removed, and unpasteurized. Ideally, it should come from A2 cows. A2 milk differs from A1 milk because it does not produce both A1 and A2 casein proteins, only A2. Some cows produce only A1, some both, and others only A2. The A2 type does not create beta-casomorphin 7, the irritating compound linked to inflammation. Choosing milk from A2 cows doesn't guarantee complete tolerance, but it greatly improves the chances. And if there's any milk left after your pet drinks, they might even share some with you. Now, food number 8 includes processed foods that are often marketed as healthy, but can actually disrupt your digestive system. Examples include cereal bars loaded with sugar and grains, flavored yogurts packed with sugar, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and artificial flavors, and even plant-based milks such as oat, soy, or almond milk. The list is long. These products might not seem harmful at first glance, but it's important to check what they actually contain. Often they're promoted as healthy simply because they're marketed that way. Millions are spent to make you believe they're a better alternative. In reality, many are full of sugar, vegetable oils, and emulsifiers, substances added to improve texture and shelf life. We'll discuss these 3 points later in this video. The term plant-based has become a marketing keyword. People immediately assume it means healthy. I'm not for or against plant-based products. Many of them are great. But you should know that most of them are grown with glyphosate and other pesticides, and then chemically processed, all of which can harm your gut. The worst part is that most people believe they're making a healthy choice, buying something good for themselves, when in reality, it may not benefit them at all. Number 7 on the list
emulsifiers, and additives such as polysorbate 80, carrageenan, and xanthan gum. Some are synthetic, others more natural, but the problem is the same. They're emulsifiers. Their job is to mix water and fats, keeping food stable. But these same properties also disturb the lipid layers and cell membranes in your body. Your intestine acts as a barrier, lined by a cellular membrane and a protective mucus layer. This mucus is constantly renewed and protects the cells from the substances inside your gut. Many foods that damage the gut do so by disrupting this mucus layer. Polysorbate 80 is one of these substances. It weakens the mucus coating, allowing bacteria to move closer to the intestinal walls. When intestinal permeability increases, even slightly, these bacteria can cross the barrier. This triggers immune cell activation and inflammation. Carrageenan, although often considered natural, also worsens the problem by disturbing the mucus and mimicking bacteria. Remember that your immune system, especially the intestinal immune cells, constantly monitor this environment. When carrageenan enters, your immune system mistakes it for a bacterial infection and mounts a strong immune response, causing even more inflammation. Number 6, alcohol. Alcohol is a solvent, and as such, it causes all kinds of damage to the gut. It directly harms enterocytes, the cells lining your intestine wall, and also disrupts the production of mucin, the mucus that protects that wall. When this mucus layer thins, more endotoxins, especially lipopolysaccharides, or LPS, leak through. These are toxins produced by harmful bacteria. When bad bacteria multiply too much, they release more endotoxins, which then escape through the gut barrier. This triggers inflammation and can have a major impact on mood. In one study, researchers injected participants with a tiny dose of LPS directly into their bloodstream, bypassing the usual protective mechanisms. Within minutes, all participants showed clinical signs of depression. This demonstrates how closely gut health is linked to overall health, not only digestion, but also mental and emotional well-being. Our brain is deeply connected to the ecosystem inside our gut. The 5th food that harms your gut is gluten, found in large amounts in modern wheat. Modern wheat contains gliadin, a compound that activates a protein called zonulin, increasing intestinal permeability. Although many grains contain gluten, hybridized modern wheat, the type found in most bread and cereals today, contains up to 50 times more gluten than ancient grains like rye, spelt, or barley, which have only small amounts. It's also important to understand that gluten isn't a single molecule. There are dozens, even hundreds of types of gluten, each with different epitopes, small molecular structures that the immune system recognizes. Your immune system doesn't react to the whole gluten molecule, but to one of these specific epitopes. That's why cross-reactions can occur. For example, if you eat corn, which has a similar epitope, your immune system, once activated, might confuse it with gluten and attack it the same way.
Even worse, a cross-reaction with gluten can occur with your own cells if your immune system is overstimulated and hyperactive. This can lead to an autoimmune condition where your body begins attacking its own tissues. The most severe and extreme form of this reaction is called celiac disease. People who suffer from it can start bleeding internally after just a single bite of food containing gluten. But here's the thing. Even if your reaction isn't that extreme, mild gluten sensitivities are very common, and they can still trigger inflammation and gut damage over time. The 4th harmful element for your gut is artificial sweeteners, especially 3 of them: aspartame, sucralose, and acesulfame K. What do they have in common? They disrupt and damage your beneficial gut flora. When these good bacteria decrease, the harmful bacteria face less competition and start taking over. The main groups affected are the lactobacilli and bifidobacteria, the same friendly bacteria found in raw milk but absent in pasteurized milk. These sweeteners also alter the balance between two major bacterial groups, firmicutes and bacteroides, which must remain in a healthy ratio. When that ratio becomes imbalanced, your body's metabolic signaling changes. Research has shown that a higher firmicutes to bacteroides ratio is linked to obesity and insulin resistance. It's quite ironical. People start using artificial sweeteners to reduce sugar intake and lose weight, but they end up damaging their gut and metabolism, which makes things even worse. They may consume fewer calories and experience fewer sugar spikes, but the damage to their gut microbiome causes cravings, mood swings, and overeating, offsetting any benefits. Among all sweeteners, aspartame might be the worst. It breaks down into a compound called phenylalanine, which some people cannot metabolize properly. These individuals are known as phenylketonurics. That's why all products containing aspartame must display a warning label. Aspartame also disrupts brain chemistry by reducing serotonin levels, the neurotransmitter responsible for well-being and emotional balance. As a result, people may experience mood changes, food cravings, and digestive issues. So please, avoid artificial sweeteners, especially those three. They are far more harmful than most people realize. Now you're starting to understand just how crucial your gut and microbiome are. But how does all this begin? It actually starts at birth. When we are born naturally, we receive the most important meal of our lives. We pass through the vaginal canal, where we are literally bathed in a rich bacterial culture. This is how we acquire our very first gut flora. But today, many babies are born via C-section, and hospitals often use strong disinfectants and alcohol for sterilization. Even babies born naturally lose much of that first exposure. From that moment on, your mother continues to pass on her bacteria through her milk, her skin, and her environment. The problem is that our modern lifestyle, antibiotics, pesticides, chemicals, and junk food have severely reduced the bacterial diversity of our mother's microbiomes. That means each new generation inherits fewer and fewer beneficial microbes. This process is hereditary. It passes from one generation to the next. After 5 generations of exposure to antibiotics, chemicals, and poor diets, not only have we lost microbial diversity, but our DNA expression, our epigenetics, has also been affected. Because of poor lifestyle habits, environmental toxins, nutritional deficiencies, and chronic stress, each generation inherits a slightly weaker genetic expression than the one before. That's one of the reasons why we're seeing a dramatic rise in autism, allergies, ADHD, and other disorders. It's not caused by one single factor, but rather a combination of many. While vaccines have their place and purpose, the problem lies in overuse. When we vaccinate, we bypass the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, which is designed to analyze what enters the body and build the immune system accordingly. By bypassing that, we alter how the immune system learns and responds. This, combined with microbiome depletion, DNA stress, and nutritional deficiencies, has pushed us further away from our natural balance. It's never just one cause. It's the accumulation of all these factors that's creating the health crisis we face today. That's why understanding your body and how it truly works is essential if you want to reverse this trend. And that's exactly why I make these videos. Because lasting health requires more than a few tips. It requires real understanding. The third harmful food for your gut is seed oils. Processed vegetable oils like canola, soybean, corn, sunflower, and safflower oils. Their biggest problem lies in how they're made. They're extracted under very high heat and pressure, often with chemical solvents like acetone to get every last drop. By the time the oil looks clean and clear in the bottle, it's already oxidized and damaged, unfit for consumption. These oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids, which throws off your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio and promotes inflammation. Omega-6 fats are polyunsaturated, meaning they are highly sensitive to heat, light, and oxygen. Once oxidized, they generate free radicals and lipid peroxides, corrosive molecules that attack cells and damage the intestinal lining. Next on the list, fried foods. We've already touched on why these are harmful. Frying exposes oils to extreme heat and oxygen, creating high levels of oxidized fats and advanced glycation end products, both highly inflammatory. These compounds destroy the tiny microvilli in your intestines and disrupt bile acid balance. Your body uses fat and cholesterol to make bile, but when the fats are damaged, bile quality suffers and your gallbladder becomes overworked. Most fried foods are also coated in refined flour, which comes from modern wheat, a source of gliadin known to trigger immune reactions. And finally, the number one enemy of your gut, sugar and processed foods, refined carbs and starches. These might not be the absolute worst individually, but they're everywhere, making them the most dangerous by far. In most Western diets, processed and refined foods, white sugar, white flour, and vegetable oils make up 50 to 60% of total calories. Pathogenic bacteria in your gut love sugar. These simple sugars feed harmful microbes like Candida albicans and Clostridium difficile, causing bacterial overgrowth and inflammation. This leads to insulin resistance, chronic low-grade inflammation, and leaky gut syndrome. And because sugar increases blood glucose, it also boosts the formation of advanced glycation end products, the corrosive compounds that damage tissues throughout the body. Add yeast, fermentation, and sugar together, and you have the perfect recipe for a tiny brewery inside your intestines, constantly fueling inflammation and tissue decay. Your gut isn't just about digestion, it's the foundation of your entire health. When you protect it, you protect your energy, your mood, and your longevity. Every small choice you make at the table can either heal or harm this delicate ecosystem inside you. So start making mindful choices. Your body will thank you. If this video helped you understand your gut better, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Eco Vitality, where we uncover the natural science of living stronger, longer, and better.